I'm very happy that actually this week has been a number of discussions around now the care economy. This morning also we've talked a lot about the human rights economy. I want to come back to that, and the right to food, and obviously a lot of intersecting themes that are very important. And to thank the colleagues already on the panel for adding their voice. It was a pleasure to work with Emanuela. I was at the ILO for 8 years, and I believe that that set of expertise, particularly on the integration of labor rights in all of our frameworks, is really a very, very critical part of the human rights architecture that we talk about. I will be brief. I want to really pivot from the first thing that Emanuela said, the complexity of what we are talking about, because there are so many interlinked themes. I could speak about global inequality and poverty, which are growing. We know that there are about 4.8 billion people poorer than they were pre-COVID. We know that they are more likely to be women and girls. We know that they are more likely to face multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. We also know that many economic, legal, and policy frameworks continue to hinder the achievement of gender equality. I think we know what works. I think the problem is, why aren't we doing it? And I think there's many issues there. Legal barriers is an area of focus and needs to be. And obviously already we have, the colleague on the panel has spoken about accessing, owning, and administering property. And we know that many women across the world, we will make the statements available later with a lot of numbers, but this right to inherit property under customary, religious, or traditional laws and practices continues to be a major obstacle. Access to pensions is an obstacle, and even where laws grant women an equal and economic rights, particularly as men, the implementation is a big challenge. Globally, according to existing laws, women should enjoy about 64% of the economic rights of men. In practice, on average, they get less than 40% in terms of what the systems are allowing them to do. And we have a few things. The real issue that gender stereotypes persist in dominant economic models. Emanuela spoke extensively about the perception of women and girls perceived as primary caregivers. We spoke this morning about many dichotomies that exist. Women both give and receive care, and this is a very important set of issues in how we distribute both the share of work, but also the remuneration and the return to work. But of course, the value of care and support work remains woefully unrecognized. And that deprives women of other opportunities which they should be able to utilize in order to harness their potential to liberate their own capacities, particularly the equal opportunities to education, to work, and to participation in public life, because ultimately there are often the trade-offs. I want to really speak to the global economic systems that are behind this, and we go back to the unsustainable and unprecedented levels of global public debt, which we believe are some of the cornerstones of why it is not working, combined with conditionalities of foreign financial assistance quite often, which constrain the fiscal space of states and lead to drastic cuts in public service, and that really undermines the ability to achieve rights. Women inevitably face the brunt of such cuts, since they are, for example, overrepresented in the public services workforce, and also because primarily, particularly in austerity measures, when public services such as health and education are cut, women have to step in to provide the alternatives. We believe it's really high time to reevaluate the concept of unlimited economic growth. I'm sure the speaker after me, Savi, who's been one of our lead economists on this, will speak to it. But this idea that we have deeply embedded gender and other inequalities within and across countries, we have an unsustainable exploitation of the environment, and we have really a disregard for the obligation to recognize economic, social, cultural rights. For too often, this integration of women into these systems has not been really equally considered. It's not a question of integration. What we really need is wholesale reform. And we need to shift the economic paradigm and understand how different macroeconomic policies can actually help us realize the human rights economy. That is, as you've heard us say many times, and we continue, a human rights economy is one that puts people and planet at the center of economic, social, environmental policies, but it works to dismantle structural barriers, to eliminate inequalities, to make sure that we can have truly sustainable growth and really talk about shared prosperity. It would make women's and girls' participation more equal, more meaningful, and it would prioritize investments in human rights. And I think this is what is imperative now. We will continue to speak about it and count on your support moving forward in order to make sure that we can together make this a priority for the coming discussions. Thank you very much.